My first interaction with the cops was, I was about like 14 years old. And I was riding my bike on the sidewalk and they asked me, I don't know if they was looking for somebody prior to me coming up, but they started asking me my name and stuff like that. They put me in the cuffs. I was young, I didn't know anything was going on, but growing up now, I knew that they was in the wrong. You know, I ain't have nothing to do with anything. I work here at ReConnect Cafe as a barista. I like this job, you know. I learned a lot of people skills. I had to make a lot of food that I did. I learned how to eat healthy.
ReConnect came about really from the experience of being in the neighborhood for 20 years and watching a lot of good young men who were having bad outcomes kind of follow the same patterns of maybe disconnected from school, engaging in kind of street culture, sometimes getting involved with high-risk activities, and then some violence and some deaths.
I had a lot of incidents. Actually, in October on Halloween, I was shot. I got shot in my thigh, and it grazed my right leg too. I was bleeding, fearing for my life at the moment.
It's amazing. Thank you. It's awesome.
You're welcome.
For me, it's personal. I grew up around the violence, seeing the violence. I was trying to raise my own children here, and I knew that as a parent, there were days where I used to say to my son, you can't go outside because we heard gunshots or somebody was shot.
The police were the ones who encountered most of these young guys, and for a lot of them, it's a very thin line from just being, you know, doing your ordinary stuff to all of a sudden being involved in the criminal justice system.
In the neighborhood, one of the things we do is create partnerships with local organizations. One of the organizations, when I first came to start Save Our Streets Bed-Stuy, that I connected to was ReConnect. And ReConnect is one of those programs that basically works with young men that are from Bed-Stuy and have been criminally justice involved, impacted by violence, or themselves have been victims of violence.
We wanted to create real economic opportunities where someone could say, I can leave the corner or walk 200 feet from the corner and I can start to earn some honest money, and I can be in a community that will support me to learn how to work, and then to really think about my life. Where am I going and where do I want to end up?
Get reconnected to the education system, but also give them the skills necessary for them to become employable.
When you tamping it, you put 20 pounds, 30 pounds of pressure. Right, so now once you put the puck in there, you have to instantly turn it on. Because if you leave it there for a few seconds, it'll burn it.
From where I came from, it's a big blessing because, you know, I ain't have like a daily schedule. I ain't have anything that I could actually get up and have to do.
You can preach something to someone, you should do this, you should do that, you should change your life. But if you can't offer a real pathway to do that, it just become like empty words or moralizing. And the reality was a lot of guys didn't want to leave the neighborhood. They wouldn't go to what we would call traditional programs. We use the image of the corner. You know, they would stay on the corner, and it was very hard to convince them to go somewhere else. So what we would say is if you don't want to leave the corner, then we change the corner.
You want to give it a shot, man?
Yeah.
In a bit.
You're going to add some air in it. Don't be afraid to turn it on. I was incarcerated for a year, 2010 to 2011, for a youthful mistake that I made when I was 16 years old, and it caught up to me as I started changing my life around. I learned from it, made me a better person, and now I'm able to pass it down to the youth coming up behind me.
Since 2011, we've employed probably about 125 young men in the neighborhood, and by our calculations, about 60% continue to work.
The impact that Father Jim has had in this community, you know, I was one person that was suspect of him when I first saw him. I was like, you know, what can this white man really do to impact the violence and impact some of the social conditions that are impacting the young men in this community? But he made me a believer. You know, he made me a believer. He was my pastor at the church here, right behind me.
What a community should do is we welcome one another, we help one another learn how to work, we help one another think about their future, and we walk with one another into a future that they want to create.
We love to work with youth, and that's the group that we look for. And SOS has access to the youth, so we can create a positive pipeline where, you know, they get in touch with youth that really want to work. They bring them on down to ReConnect. We show them how to work, how to keep a job.
I tried.
Okay, open the K though.
So when I was growing up, I wanted a job, but I just didn't know how to go about it. Like, I just filled out job applications, just hoping that I would get, you know, that job. But I never had working experience, so where I'm gonna get that working experience? This right here is just like a stepping stone for everything.
In the last 3 years, we've been able to impact the lives of many young men, get them to go back into, you know, getting themselves educated, getting themselves employed, but most of all, getting them to think about their community in a different way, where they're part of it and not part of the problem.